Now joining the jump, always so happy to have Malika Andrews with us. She is also here in the bubble. You've got the Clippers warming up behind you, Malika. Welcome. And I want to start off with Zion Williamson. He played 25 minutes last night. He had a fun moment with you where he looked a little confused about the new social distancing protocol in the post-game interview. But as usual, you had the info for him. You had the goods. What are you hearing, Malika, about the Pelicans' plans for Zion's minutes going forward?
Yeah, well, to be fair, Rachel, and you know this all too well, also being on the sidelines, there's like 7 or 8 million robotic cameras, and there's just no way to know. I get confused where to look, so I can't blame him. But in terms of Zion's minutes, from what I've heard from people within the Pelicans, this slow, cautious ramp up, if his body allows it, is what's going to continue. So last night he played a little bit more than he had been playing, but still his longest stretch on the floor was just 5 minutes and 39 seconds, and his previous longest stretch on the floor was 5 minutes and 35 seconds. So it really wasn't that much more. It was just more bursts. But today is actually going to be really telling, Rach, because they have an off day. And so how his body responds to the work he did yesterday, that will tell the medical staff what he can continue to do in the next games. But you heard him. He wants to be out on the floor. It's just about what his body and the medical staff allows.
Yeah, no, and I think they're being precautious for the right reasons. What this man means to the NBA, what he means to ESPN, what he meant to college basketball last year. You want to make sure that you are handling him the right way. Now, you don't want to be overly cautious. He's still a very, very young player, but ultimately you want him to be healthy. They're not really playing for anything. They would like to make it to the postseason, but they're not going to win a championship. And ultimately, that's the goal for them, is to be able to use Zion as a piece of a championship team. So how you handle him now can dictate the future of this organization. So be cautious. Just be cautious.
I know it doesn't look like it, but the Pelicans are following a plan. They initially wanted him to go 15 minutes, then 20 minutes, then 25. But in the second game, it was a blowout, so they pulled him early. So this actually is following this winding road that they had laid down in the start of this. Now, at the end of this week, the Pelicans have a back-to-back, and all of these games are very important for them. So to me, the real question will be, you know, can they play him in the back-to-back? And I would feel like that would not be the case. So then which game do you pick to play him in? There's a lot of strategy involved with him all over the place.
Yeah, and on the other side of that game last night, of course, were the Grizzlies. They fell to 0-3 in bubble action. Malika, what can you tell us about Ja Morant during that game, and how are the Grizzlies feeling about their chances to hold on to that 8th seed after the loss?
Well, what's interesting is I was asking a bunch of the Pelicans last night, because they are so successful time and time again against Memphis with Zion, without Zion. They've played against them without him as well, and they couldn't exactly put a finger on what exactly the matchup is that makes them so successful against them. It was just that so much of what Memphis does offensively is predicated on Ja Morant. And so when he doesn't get going, then that makes it so that the rest of the team struggles a little bit offensively. That being said, there is no one, and you guys know this, who is better suited to be that young and lead this team. I was talking to T, Ja's father, yesterday, and he told me that Ja, after every single game, still gets on FaceTime with him, still goes over film, and puts everything on himself. He's not the one who says, this player or that player could have done something differently. He's always saying, this is what I could have done differently. But Ja told you, Rachel, he wants to avoid that play-in tournament altogether because he doesn't see it as totally fair. And so they need to be focusing right now on the next game, because it's getting down to it. The Pelicans are coming, the Blazers are coming, the Spurs, even though they lost a heartbreaker, are still kind of jockeying for that spot. They don't want to be in that position where they have to play in a play-in tournament.
That's well said, Malika. He is a great leader. He is a young leader that you want for this team. But understand this. The NBA did a very, very good job of making their schedule realistic. They had the most difficult schedule, the final portion of the regular season. And that's where teams were going to be able to catch grounds on them. And this is the issue that I see when you look back at it. Let's talk about the Miami Heat really, really quickly. They added veterans. They added Jay Crowder. They added Andre Iguodala because they had a young team. And then all of a sudden, the Memphis Grizzlies, they lose a veteran like Jay Crowder, who's a leader, who's been through these battles, that knows how this intensity is going up. So here you have the Memphis Grizzlies, who have lost 3 in a row. The San Antonio Spurs and the Portland Trailblazers are playing well because they have more veterans. So the Memphis Grizzlies are in a very, very tough spot, and I don't think that they're going to be able to avoid, obviously going 0-3 doesn't help. They're not going to be able to avoid those play-in games.
Yeah, that was a sort of a pipe dream that they had, that they could get that 4-game lead. And now I think that ship has sailed, although that's probably not a surprise with the difficulty of their schedule. The crazy thing is that they're a little bit thin on the wings. They cut Dion Waiters after making that trade. Dion is giving the Lakers some minutes right now. And I know this sounds crazy, but especially since Justice Winslow is out with injury, the Grizzlies could actually kind of use Dion. So part of it was they're thin, and they had to play 3 games in 4 days coming straight out of the chute. It wasn't favorable. I still feel like they'll get it together, and we'll get that 8 seed.
Yeah, but even if they get that 8 seed, again, if the 9th seed, whoever ends up in that spot, is within 4 games, we get a play-in game. Our friends over at ESPN Stats and Info, last time I checked, had a 98% chance going that we are getting a play-in game in the West. The East, it's just not as competitive, guys. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.